What's going on, everybody? Before you guys get into the video, I just want to say real quick, I just got done with the video with James, and I just want to say that there is a little bit of an echo real quick. I know how to fix it for the next time I do it, but for this episode, there is going to be a little bit of echo when James talks, and at the very beginning, don't worry about it. It's only the first like 8 seconds. My voice and my camera are going to be off, but it's only for the first 8 seconds. After that, it's all good. But I really hope you guys enjoy it. I know I had some technical difficulties in this. It is my first time doing it. I probably should have done like a test run episode with somebody else just to fix anything that like went wrong. But I didn't. But I still think this was a lot of fun. Me and James had a lot of fun. We laughed a lot, talked a lot about the Pistons, and just fun stuff in general. I hope you guys enjoy it. Like I said, there is a little bit of echo, but I think you guys are still gonna enjoy it. If you guys came for the content. I think you guys are really going to enjoy it still. I thank you guys for watching the video. If you like it, make sure you guys hit the thumbs up below. And if you haven't already, hit the subscribe button. And without further ado, here it is. All right, welcome everybody back to my YouTube channel. And welcome to the first episode of The Ballroom. This was like the thing I was telling you guys about in my last video that I was going to get started up. And luckily, I have someone deep in with the Pistons to help me out my first episode. He's a friend of mine. And I'm sure all you guys know, I got James from The Athletic. He's the beat writer for the Pistons. There's his Twitter app right there on the screen, as you guys can see, and he's an MSU grad. There was nothing else he said he wanted to include right there. I asked him if he wanted to sponsor any some of his business inquiries or whatever, so he said no. But yeah, so real quick, it took us a little bit to get this started, so if we start to lag a little bit on the video, I apologize about that. But really, the big content that you guys are going to get from all this is the fact that I got James here, who's with The Athletic, and we're gonna be talking just about everything we have planned. So, James, how you doing right now?
I'm doing well, but
On
our first intro, you called me a pessimist, so I still need to answer as to why I'm that.
Let me just give you guys a reason for why I called James a pessimist. So, as you guys know, this is my first year as a credential media, so I was there at almost every Piston home game. And every time you walk, this is what will happen. After every game, you go from like where you're sitting in the media seats, and then either you go down back to the media room, gets ready, and then go to the press room, or you go from the media seats and you go straight to the press room. I go straight to the press room every time, so I'm like one of the first ones there. And then, so I sit there, I watch everybody slowly walk into the press room before Dwayne Casey gets in. Every single time, James just walks in. Just all sadness and everything. Then he sits down, he looks over at me.
So it's not sadness. It's not sadness.
It looks like sadness.
It's just annoyance at times of just going through the same routine every day. It's the game happened, the Pistons lost, everyone's been asked the same question. And it's just like you can just predict what's going to happen. People are going to ask dumb questions about why a guy turned the ball over in the third quarter because he tripped over his shoe. It's just the same thing over and over.
Well, to add on to James being a pessimist, he was kind of on this train that the Pistons are on right now. He was on it way earlier in the season before it actually started to happen. So he was on there, and I was a bit hesitant to get on there, but one of the main things James said to me that made me realize, all right, so James really ain't messing with what's going on right now. He said, it's okay if you want to fight for like the 8th and 7th seed if you got some younger guys. You got a bunch of old guys up here running for 7 to 8 seed. It's time to blow this up right now.
Yeah,
so
it is. Yeah, it is. I mean, again, like what Memphis is doing, perfect. Like bunch of young guys in the playoffs, ahead of the development. Like, what is the purpose in having core players who are at their prime or above their prime, chasing the 7th and 8th seed just to lose? Like, it's just that gets you nowhere. And somebody realized it up top, and it happened.
So obviously the Pistons obviously agreed with James because obviously but Andre Drummond's gone, Reggie's gone. I think Luke Kennard's not the long-tenured Piston. So, yeah, they obviously agreed with James' pessimistic views on life.
Hold on. How is it pessimistic though? Like, you wanted to sit there
No,
and
I didn't say
win 38 games?
Nah, I didn't say that, but it's just
You think that this team's better than they are. That's what it is. You think if everybody's healthy, they'll go and get the 4 seed or something.
I don't know about 4 seed, but we'll get.
Oh, don't say nothing. Oh, don't say nothing. Don't say anything. They're not. This team, if healthy, was not getting more than the 8th or 7th seed.
All right, we can get into that a little bit later. We do have that on the list a little bit. It was something I was going to bring up with one of the things I told you we were going to talk about. So we'll talk about that a little bit more later. So, all right. So first off, I want to just start with, we're in quarantine, obviously, COVID-19. We talked a little bit before the thing started. Just tell everybody how it's affected you. You know, you're a writer, but some people may not understand that, you know, you're not just a writer, obviously. You have a life. And just tell us, like, how it's affected you. What are you doing now that, you know, we're all in quarantine? Like, what's going on now with you?
Yeah, I mean, obviously there's no practices to go to, no planes to get on for road games, no home games, whatever. But I mean, I'm still writing multiple times a week, kind of treating it like the off season, doing kind of more obscure features and stuff that take people's mind off what's going on. Draft stuff's coming up. I think more people care about what the Pistons are going to do with the draft than if the season's coming back, because the season's been pretty much done for the Pistons for a while, free agency, all that stuff. And then at home, when I have free time, playing a lot of FIFA. I think it's on in the background. Play a lot of FIFA. I've been reading a lot. I recommend, if anybody's looking for stuff to read, Tanking to the Top by Yaren Weitzman. I hope I said his name. I just blanked on his name, but I'm pretty sure that's it. Works for Bleacher Report. He wrote an amazing book on like the behind-the-scenes stuff with the process. That's really, really good. I recommend people check it out. What else have I been doing? I live with my girlfriend, so she's been here, and we're just a lot of hanging out. Yeah, I'm sure pretty much what everybody else is doing right now.
So I know I saw you talk about a little bit on Twitter before, like, the NBA season got shut down completely. You weren't very happy, or let's say you didn't. I don't think you agreed with the fact that they said they were going to start limiting people who get in the locker rooms and can talk with players like that. I'm pretty sure I saw you pretty adamant against that. Why, if that's true, if I'm remembering correctly, why did you feel that way?
There's two reasons. One, I don't think it was. I mean, as we saw we can't blame Rudy Gobert. Like, we don't know where it started, who had it first. But I mean, it's as likely as a player gets it or coach gets it than the media. And the way they painted it made it feel like they were worried about the players getting it from the media, when it's. I mean, anybody could get it. The players could get it from a coach, an assistant, equipment manager, locker room attendant. It can come from anywhere. So I didn't like how they kind of painted media in that sense. And then two, if they try to limit access now and use this as not an excuse to do what they were doing, but say it's going to be temporary, and then it ends up not being temporary. For someone like me, I don't really do like the media scrums when people are in the locker room, like very. I mean, I'll hop in every now and then just to listen, but like my interviews, I'll get guys one-on-one. You use that time, even if you don't have the recorder out, just to like build rapport with guys, to have conversations. That's 80% of the job, to get those stories that we do over at The Athletic. A lot of that, what goes into that is kind of just getting to know guys and building relationships, and a lot of that comes in the locker room, specifically on the road, but even at home. So if they try to take away that access, that, I mean, it limits a lot of what we're able to do.
Yeah, I can definitely back up what James is saying with that. Just by me being in the same locker rooms as him this year, he was not a part of, or well, he was sometimes, but the majority of what I saw James doing there, he talked to players one-on-one. He obviously has a good relationship with a lot of the players, and that's how, actually, I saw, didn't you write something this year on Luke Kennard? Something, it might have been last year. No, I think you wrote something this year, didn't you? And you sat down and talk. I think I saw you sit down and talk with him about it too. It might not have been specifically about him, but you definitely used something you heard from him in one of your guys' one-on-ones. In the
it might have been, if it's the one you're thinking about. It might have been the one where I wrote the story on how he was actually right-handed.
Yes, that's exactly what it was.
Yeah, that was earlier. That was earlier.
Yeah, I was there, and I saw James literally sitting down talking with him. So that's how that's how James does his stuff, and I figured that's probably what he was talking about because, like I said, I was new there, so the only people I talked to really was I talked to Langston a couple times, and I talked to Bruce one time. I really wish I could have got to talk to Bruce more because I wrote a couple things down. I kind of want to have some quotes from him, but yeah, I only talked to.
Yeah, I was gonna say I haven't seen you. Every time I see you write, it's Bruce stuff. I haven't seen you write anything.
That man Bruce. If you know how Stanley Johnson was for me, that's how Bruce is becoming for me now. That's basically what's becoming over there.
I mean, Bruce has the potential to be a good player, but I know if I recall, you were calling Stanley the second coming of LeBron. So just don't do that to Bruce.
I definitely thought that Stanley was going to be the person that saved the Pistons. I will say that.
That's fair. I mean,
he had a good rookie season.
Yeah,
I understand
definitely
it.
Sad what happened to him, but yeah, so I definitely can see how that impacts James and all of them. But obviously, with the season being over, we don't have to deal with that kind of possibility of them actually just saying it's going to be temporary and then ended up making it permanent. So hopefully the NBA season can get back soon or whenever. Actually, hopefully this whole COVID-19 can get over soon. Not just the NBA season, but let's just hope for that.
I agree.
But that brings me to the next topic. Do you believe the NBA season will get started back up, and do you think it should anytime soon?
Should it? Only if this virus dies down, obviously in regular everyday life, and they're able to get all the players tested, and nobody's out there with positive. I mean, again, they could test all the players in the league right now, and they all could be negative. But if they're all living with people who go outside, and it's too widespread. So I think it has to die down in the real world first for that to happen. And I don't think they are going to come back. I think they finish. I think they start the playoffs. I think the regular season's over. There was only 16 games left. I think the 2 8 seeds had multiple game leads. I think one was 3.5, one was 4, if I'm not mistaken. I haven't looked in a while. And those are pretty not significant leads, but they're comfortable leads. And there's too much money involved for them not to do the playoffs. Guys have bonuses, championships, history books, all that stuff. I don't know if it comes back, but if it does come back, I don't think they play the regular season.
Okay, so actually, just the main question I actually want to ask is: do you believe that if we start getting into like midsummer, if we start getting into that point, or even towards when does the NBA season usually start? Around is that when does the press start? The what's it called? The media day.
Media day is usually the last day
in September. So what if we start rolling around the beginning of September? Things still aren't going. You think they should you think they should still try to salvage the season? Do you think they still try to?
No, I think there'll be a cutoff.
No, I think there'll be a cutoff point. If I had to guess, if this thing isn't simmered down by May, maybe June, I just can't see them playing in July and August. I don't know if they want to use this to try to change the calendar or whatever and start the season in December. But I just get the sense that May, June, and then if that doesn't happen, then we might just see no season at all. See no season at all.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I don't think that this one of the things I'm really looking at, and obviously, like I said earlier, there's bigger issues at hand with the COVID-19. But we're talking basketball here. We're trying to give a different thing to think about right now. So obviously, what I'm thinking about and really just hit me is that a lot of these players have lost a year now. If they do end the season, they've lost a year of their careers. For example, LeBron. He's 35 now. This looked like this might have been one of his final runs. He's then lost a year. What's it going to do to him moving forward now? And you got Giannis now, who looked like the surefire MVP. Milwaukee looked like they were going to do some damage. Now they lose a year. Does the fact that the year they looked like they were going to do something, does that have any impact on Giannis leaving Milwaukee? All kinds of stuff. There's all kinds of stuff I believe that if the season doesn't come back, it ends up affecting a lot of the storylines and possible outcomes for a lot of these players. So definitely think.
I agree with the second part.
No, I agree with the second part a lot in terms of
teams like the Clippers.
Teams like the Clippers have a short window. Kawhi and PG only signed 2-year deals, like you said. Does that impact Giannis? In terms of the physicality and guys like LeBron, you mentioned.
It could be a good thing.
It could be a good thing. He's getting ready to play grueling basketball. So if there's no season, he saved, what, 16 regular season games left? How many do you have to win the finals? That's, is it what, four series?
Yeah.
4 series?
Yep.
16? So a minimum of 30 more games for him. And knowing the Lakers, it's probably closer, somewhere between 40 and 50. Yeah, I mean, that stuff, maybe it extends LeBron's career another year. That stuff, because they're not playing, no chance of tearing something or XYZ. But I do agree with you in terms of windows for teams and players and contracts and things like that. I would imagine the NBA will address that and give players maybe the opportunity to either, I mean, most of the season was played, but obviously postseason, Kawhi and PG didn't go to LA to win the regular season. They went there to win the title. So, I'm curious to see how that plays out.
Yeah, same here. So it's going to be something cool to see. I actually think it could be pretty cool to see what happens. I think it's going to be like an added drama part to the NBA, and we already know NBA is a drama league. So I think it actually will be a pretty cool thing to watch happen. Let's go ahead and get to our next topic. So obviously Blake Griffin, man. You can see the Blake Griffin poster in the background, obviously. So, so Blake Griffin, man, I gotta be honest. I think he's my favorite Piston I've ever watched.
More than Stanley.
Outside of Stanley, but if we're taking like that out of if we're talking about like stars and best players, etc., I think Blake Griffin is easily the best, not the best, my favorite to watch, and I actually think he is in the conversation for best when you talk about if you're talking about peak Piston. But so he dealt with injuries this past year. Obviously, that's something that maybe more people. I know James was all over it still, but I think maybe more people should have been ready for just in case it happened, because obviously it's a running theme in his career right now. He is still only, I believe, he just turned 31 now. Basically, the Pistons obviously have went tank mode at least for this season, at the very least. This season, a lot of people think they're going to do it moving forward now. They've went rebuild mode. If Blake comes back next year healthy, let's say he comes back next year healthy, obviously when he's healthy, he's a star. If he gets healthy next year, well, first off, do you believe he can be back to 100% next year? Do you believe that can happen? And two, if he does, do you think that changes anything the Pistons want to do? Do you think they continue to try to rebuild, or do you think that they, if Blake stays healthy and he plays next year, obviously he makes them a better team. If you surround Blake with these young players and you add a couple players, and obviously I don't know what players they'd want to go. I mean, me and you've talked a little bit about Fred VanVleet. I don't know if they go any younger. They get like a couple other players. But basically, as Blake, like their oldest player, him and D Rose, if they start playing, do you think there's a scenario where they start playing well, or do you think they try to move him out of here so they continue to rebuild? What do you think can happen next year with him?
To answer your first part,
I think Blake doesn't get credit for this, and I'll probably write it at some point between now and whenever this next season starts, whatever happens with that. But this dude has been injured a lot throughout his career, but he's always come back and played to all-star or all-NBA level. Like, people like to call him injury-prone. And rightfully so. He's had a lot of injuries, but I can't name a guy who gets that type of label and then always comes back and still puts himself in the conversation as one of the best 20 players in the league. I mean, how many injuries did he have in LA? Then you look, how many All-NBAs has he made? How many All-Star games has he made? When he got injured in LA and then the year he got traded to the Pistons, he was good when he got here. Then the next year he goes and has one of the best years of his career. So I'm going to give Blake the benefit of the doubt, and I think he deserves that. Because he takes care of himself. He knows how to work. He works smart. He works hard on his body. I think he deserves the benefit of the doubt. People should. I know everybody's like, oh, we knew this was going to happen, blah, blah, blah. And yeah, of course, but that doesn't mean Blake can't come back. And if we look at the evidence, Blake's done nothing but always return from injuries and play as good or better than before. And then to answer your next question, I think they're committed. They know Blake's not going to be around for long. I mean, he only has 2 years left on his deal. Derek only has a year left. I think they've committed to the rebuild. I don't think there's anything that they could really do outside of drafting well that's going to turn this thing around quickly. It's going to be, if this thing's going to take like a Memphis turn, it's going to be through the draft. It's not going to be through signing free agents because they're not going to get those type of game changers. So I think in that regard they've already committed. Do I think they can be a good team with those two healthy? I mean, that depends on the definition of good team. Maybe they sneak in the 8th seed with those two who come healthy. I know he was actually talked to him yesterday, and he said that he was really close to coming back. So this kind of delayed, frustrated him a little bit. And Christian Wood, if they can re-sign him, obviously people know what he can do now. So they got interesting pieces. It's just a matter of, I guess, who's there and who's not when the season starts, and that we can't really predict until training camp, obviously. Or not even predict, but, I mean, there's no predicting. We'll have to wait and find out.
So, yeah, but one of the things I'm a little bit – I know a lot of fans feel this way because I'm out there on Pistons Twitter a lot talking to everybody, and I know for a fact – and I see all the things that they're saying. So I know for a fact that one of the worries and one of the things people have been talking about, and I mentioned it a little bit too, is the fact that even over the past 10 years when the Pistons just weren't good teams, they never had like a top pick. They always were 7, 8, 7, 8, 9, 7, 8, 9. So obviously with this rebuild, this year it looked like they were trending towards getting close to top 3 pick. Who knows how high they could have gotten. And then with the NBA draft, they still draft lottery, they still could get up there. But the problem is I see a lot of people thinking about or posing this question is if Blake comes back healthy, if Derek comes back healthy, if Luke comes back healthy, they re-sign Christian Wood, they add some pieces in the offseason that, maybe not win now moves, but just aren't trash players. Like maybe they take some chances on like some young players who've been given up on, then they come here and they flourish. Now you're looking at a team, even if they don't make the playoffs, they're worried that we're going to be right back into that 7, 8, 9, 10 range, and then they're worried that we won't be able to get a star. Do you think that kind of thing is like a possibility of happening? Is that like a legitimate worry for fans to have?
I mean, yeah, it's definitely a legitimate worry. I mean, you look at the history of the Pistons over the last 10 years, they've tried to be competitive, and it's led to some iffy signings, and it leads to either, I mean, in most cases, not making the playoffs, or if they make the playoffs, barely make the playoffs. So, I mean, if you just look at history, yeah, it's definitely something I can understand why people worry about. Do I think this front office does it? No, I think when you see Andre Drummond traded for what he was traded for, when you see Reggie Jackson bought out, when you see Markieff Morris bought out, like, there's a plan, and it just wouldn't make much sense. I mean, people can have the fear that they want, but if you just look at kind of the dominoes that have fallen already, it just doesn't make much sense for them to go that route, at least over the next year. The moves just you don't do that if you're still trying to remain competitive.
All right, so yeah, I think that's about it we have with that Blake, basically with Blake. But actually, just want to ask you this last thing about Blake. This is a simple. I think it's only like a 2-word answer you can give with this, but I'll just go ahead and ask it. I'm sure everybody's thinking it. Would you be surprised if Blake Griffin was not in a Pistons jersey anymore by the end of the season next year?
By the end of next season?
Yeah.
By the end of next season?
It ends. Would you be surprised if he's no longer a Piston?
No, not at all.
No,
okay.
Not at all.
All right, so obviously there you go with James talking about Blake Griffin. Next, we're going to move on to, the Pistons season wasn't the greatest season, obviously, and they had a lot of bad things happen. A lot of people got hurt, ruined any kind of chance of them being. I mean, I know a lot of people had them being pretty good. I had them being pretty good. I thought they were going to win 45 games if they stayed healthy. But obviously they didn't stay healthy.
Why do you think that?
Because I believe that last year's team, they were pretty good and Blake was a monster. And then you add like some good pieces in the offseason with Christian Wood. And then hopefully if Blake's still healthy at that same level, I think they just get better.
But hold on.
One.
You can't factor.
There's no. You're not telling me you factored Christian Wood in the 45 wins to begin the season. Okay. And two, as good as Blake and Derek, you can't. If they're healthy, it'd be possible. But there's just the odds of between those two and Luke and Reggie being healthy for an entire season, it's impossible almost. So I understand what you're saying. If it could have happened, yeah, sure, possibly. I just think people didn't factor in that that's not going to happen. And then we see game 2, Reggie goes down for months, or was it game 3? Derek goes down shortly after. Blake doesn't even start the season. And then Luke, nobody's seen Luke since Christmas. So I just think people don't factor that stuff in.
No, I'll say this. I did factor it in. I wrote an article about it, and I said the reason why I was so confident in it, and I'll tell you this right here why I was so confident. Because I did take that into consideration, obviously. And you can fact check me. It's over there on, I believe it's over there on Detroit Bad Boys, or either that or Piston Powered, which I hope it's on Detroit Bad Boys, because I don't want to be giving Piston Powered any more views than from my stuff. But basically, I wrote that Arnie Kander, like, he did a good job with Reggie and Blake last year. Reggie had dealt with injuries the previous few years. Arnie Kander comes back, Reggie plays every game. Blake dealt with injuries. He comes here, Arnie Kander comes back. All of a sudden, he's playing, what did he play? Like 78 games total last year if you include playoffs. I figured that, if there was anybody who gives you the best chance of doing it, and since we saw it happen last year, Arnie Kander was the one that could help us do it. And I thought that he possibly would be able to help the Pistons players manage their load a little bit, but obviously he didn't. I don't think any of the training staff really got a chance at trying to manage anything, because, like you said, Blake was dead before the season started. Reggie was dead game 2, and then Derek was spiraling out of control. So obviously, yeah, it didn't work out, but yeah, I did take it into consideration.
I'm glad you brought that up. There's a few things that are interesting to me. Obviously, I have to follow Pistons Twitter to see what people are interested. Obviously, I'm involved because I cover the team. Fans' fascination with trainers is like so shocking to me. So Reggie Jackson rolled his ankle 2 years ago, and people are acting like if there was a different trainer, he wouldn't have rolled his ankle on the basketball court, and that's why. And then Arnie has an amazing resume. He's one of the best. He's not around every day. He's a consultant, and certain things are just out of people's control, and it just is what it is. I just wanted to bring that up. Like, that's so interesting to me. I remember, like, my first year on the beat, people were like calling for the trainer's neck, and I'm just like, the dude rolled his ankle. Like, what do you want the trainer to go grab him before his ankle turns? Like, I don't understand what's going on.
No, yeah, I feel it. A lot of Reggie, I'll say this, a lot of Reggie's, I feel like what they were talking about, and obviously you probably would know better because you've been there a lot longer. This is only my first year, but I feel like a lot of what fans are thinking of is not necessarily like the freak accidents like you're bringing up. Like, there's nothing you can stop with that, but more of like the over the long haul of the season, being able to manage them. I get it. Yeah.
No, I get it.
Keep them upright.
Yeah, no, you're right. I get that. And that stuff coaches talk about the importance of the training staff handling stuff like tendonitis and things like that. But trust me, they try to do everything that they can, and some stuff is out of people's control.
Yeah, definitely. So, but yeah, that was just my reasoning. I did take into consideration, but I thought that at the very, first off, I didn't suspect Blake to be dead when the season started. I thought he was going to be okay. So I thought they'd at least get a chance at load managing all of them together throughout the season. They didn't even get the chance to try to do that. So yeah, but basically what I want to move into is I just wrote about what my biggest takeaway from the Pistons season was. Now, obviously, you could go like the negative route. You could say, oh, well, they got rid of everybody. They're finally deciding to lose, or they're finally trying to rebuild, or you could take that route. I did not take that route. I wanted to try to pick something positive. What was my biggest takeaway like that from the Pistons season? And I know a lot of people will say Christian Wood, and I know that you have to have seen it at least a little bit, but he got like a cult following now in the Pistons community. Luke Kennard, he has like a whole fan club in the Pistons community. Like they're not Piston fans. Like, they have their own fan. Like, there's Piston fans that inside a Piston fan, like the little pie circle, you have like a little cuts out for like Luke Kennard fans and Christian Wood fans. So I didn't pick either of them, because I don't believe they were the biggest takeaway, even though Christian Wood played pretty well, and I know Luke got hurt, but he was playing well before he got hurt. But I think that Bruce Brown was the biggest takeaway this season. Now, I already wrote about it, so I'll say why if you haven't read my article after we talked to James. But James, what was your biggest takeaway from the Pistons season?
All right,
one thing. My phone just showed that I have 10% left. I had not charged it, so we might have to do quick hitters after this, just so you know, so it doesn't cut off. Two, I mean, to me, it's Christian Wood. They got a guy that, basketball lovers, the most diehard fans, media that covers the ins and outs of the games. Christian Wood was kind of like the basketball savant champion this year. His numbers were ridiculous. To get a guy that's potentially, I don't want to say a franchise player because that's going overboard, but a really, really good player, a guy that has 20 and 10 potential off the waiver wire, who's 24, doesn't have much mileage on him. Like, that's a win. And now you look good to him in his eye and the eyes of his agents because you're the first team that gave him a chance. He can only get better. For him to do what he did this year, given his situation where he almost didn't make the team, playing behind Blake when he got back, playing behind Thon for some time, but his evolution, I think, is just I think we've seen what Christian Wood is, but I think what he's done since the trade deadline, I think that's the type of player he is, a 20 and 10 guy who can shoot 36%, almost 40% from three. Once he gets stronger, he builds to that frame. The sky's the limit for him. And they found that guy on the waiver wire, and it's a guy that built. Now that they're moving forward and building this, it's a guy you want to keep around.
All right. Well, I can't argue with that. I'm not going to argue with anybody who picks Christian Wood because obviously he's going to be everyone's favorite pick. But I picked Bruce, and since your phone's dying, I'll just give quick reasons why. Bruce, before the season, man, a lot of fans, and I know this for a fact. I know this a lot because, like I said with Stanley, Stanley's jersey, is he up? Nope, he's not up right now. Actually, he's in my closet. But I have a Stanley jersey. And, Stanley was my favorite player. He's still, my favorite player. I really wish he gets it together. But Bruce reminded a lot of Piston fans of Stanley. Good defense, but, complete zero on offense. And everyone was just oh, just another Stanley. We can't get really too excited about him, blah, blah. He's not good at all, blah, blah. He shouldn't even be playing. All that stuff.
That's different because Stanley was a top 7
Correct.
pick. Bruce was a second-round pick. Yeah,
that's fair as well. But along with that, they both had I've wrote about this. They both had kind of similar play styles. Both of them, I felt like flash playmaking ability. They were good on defense. Both of them flash passing vision, playmaking ability, and just they were zeros on offense, but they flashed stuff that made you think, oh well, maybe if they did this, maybe if they did that, blah blah, all that stuff. Then we head into this season. And unlike Stanley, who ended up not being able to take that next step, whether that's because of back injuries or putting up too much muscle, all that other stuff, or maybe he just couldn't get better. But that's my excuses for him. But either way, Bruce came into this season, and with Derek getting hurt, Blake getting hurt, Reggie getting hurt, if you take the guy from last year, if you take any other player from last year, had the resume of last year from Bruce, and just threw him into this role that he was thrown into this year, and giving him more responsibility, they fell flat on their face. They bust. They fail hard. They would fail miserably. Bruce, most players you see get better if you give them less to work with, let them develop. Bruce was given everything. He was just given full plate this year and got better. So not only did he get better, he got he took a leap in almost every offensive category. It wasn't just 2% or this and 2% that. He took big leaps in almost every offensive category across the board with a bigger responsibility, which tells me that if he continues to go on this trajectory, he made the jump this year from being a bad player last year to being probably what most would consider a below average player this year. He makes another jump like this, he goes from below average to starter next year. So it's just, and then if you take into effect that he's a second round pick, if he even gets to average, a rotational player, you've already hit on that pick. But I think that Bruce, honestly, if you had to ask my question, I'm probably biased here because, like I said, he's starting to become my Stanley Johnson. But I think that he probably has he's the most intriguing prospect for me of the Pistons' young core. I think that if he figures everything out, his athleticism, his playmaking ability, he's smart with the game. He knows how he has a good feel. To combine that with his athleticism and his early defense, I think that he has one of the highest, if not the highest ceiling of any of the prospects the Pistons got.
I'm not mad at the
Bruce pick. I don't know if he has the highest ceiling of anybody. There's a 19-year-old on the team, so I don't know if that's necessarily the case. But I think Bruce. I'll say this. Bruce is always going to get better because he works hard, and he knows his limits. He knows what he's good at. You don't see Bruce taking bad shots. He knows what his strengths are and what his weaknesses are. And for him to realize that, I don't think a lot of young guys are willing to accept that early on in their career, and it hurts them. I think Bruce accepted it, and it made him better. I think Bruce has the potential to be a very, very, very good role player in this league. You look at like him and Jimmy Butler's numbers early on, and they're almost identical. I don't see that type of wiggle with the ball that Jimmy showed at times younger in his career as you do with Bruce. Bruce is kind of more line drive. He's not a sit there and dance with you type guy. And you saw a little bit of that of Jimmy early on, if I'm not mistaken. But Bruce, I think, has potential to be a good NBA player, a guy that a coach will always be able to lean on because he's going to do the right things and he's going to play hard. I think he landed in a perfect spot in Detroit. I think as his career evolves, he'll become a fan favorite. And I think he'll be around for a long time, if I had to guess.
And I think he should be a fan favorite already. But that, like I said, I'm biased. I'm really high on Bruce. I think that he showed me a lot this year, his passing vision. I did a whole article about it. And it's just the passing vision, the IQ with his passing. He started to show a little bit. Actually, he brought it up with the wiggle. He started to show a little bit in the pick and roll. He snaked a lot of pick and rolls. That's one of the things I like to see when you run a pick and roll. You don't lose control, and he got a lot of people caught in jail. I'm sure you know what that means when you get them caught on your back and you have them in jail. They can't get around James being a hooper supposedly.
Ask about me, baby.
All right. Set your phones down. We'll go ahead and cut that.
Ask about me.
We'll cut that short with Bruce. All right, we'll go to the next topic. Next thing, obviously you brought him up, Sekou. Everyone thinks he's the next coming of Jesus. And Pistons fans absolutely love this guy. If you ask me personally, I'm a little, what's the word? I'm a little hesitant.
I'm only at 5% left on my phone, by the way, just so you know. I don't want to get cut off in the middle of either of our answers.
I'm a little hesitant on Sekou, but he obviously feels like the future of the Pistons. Just give me your overall thoughts on the future of the Detroit Pistons. Just give me your quick hit thoughts on the future of this team.
I think Sekou has potential to be a really good player. I don't know if he's ever be a superstar, and I think people should chill their expectations on that. Bruce, I think, will be around for a while, especially as long as Dwayne's here. I think Bruce will be here. As long as Ed is here, I think Bruce will be here. I still think the Pistons are they don't have that young guy of the future yet. I think they have. They're starting to build some nice complementary pieces, and Christian Wood, to me, is maybe the verdict still out. Maybe he could be that guy. His numbers, again, have been ridiculous since January, February, and he's still so young. I just think they need to just continue to fill the pipeline, continue to get as many cracks at getting that transcendent talent as possible. I think they have pieces that are interesting, but I still don't think they have that one piece that's like, oh, this guy's going to take us to heights we haven't been to in a while. And again, it could be Sekou, he's 19. It could be Christian Wood. Maybe this isn't a fluke of a guy who wants to get paid. Maybe this is just who he is. And, he comes back next year and does the same thing. Luke's a question mark just because of his injury history, and they have to decide if they want to pay him soon. I think Luke's a really good player. It's just a matter of do they see him with the timeline of where they're going, and is he worth paying seven figures to or eight figures to when they're finally getting their cap sheet clean. So I think there's questions there, but I do think that they don't feel that they have that home run young guy yet. Obviously, the verdict's still on Sekou.
Okay, yeah. So since your phone's down, I'll just quickly go on to the next. You brought it up a little bit, but just want to say they should not trade Luke. They should pay him. That's my opinion. Luke's a good player. Keep him around. But next, lastly.
Let's talk about real quick. Why you don't get worried about the knees?
No. You want straight answer? No. I'm not as worried about them to where I just would trade them. No.
Okay, what would you pay Luke, I guess? What's the most you would pay Luke?
A lot of people, I think, again, out of pocket with this price range. At most, I'd probably pay him 15 at the most.
I think that's a fair number, but I wouldn't be surprised if if his representation thinks is getting more, should be getting more than that, and I think that's where maybe the disconnect could be.
If they think that he should be getting more than 15, then okay, that's on them. But if they can keep Luke around here for 15, around their 15, like I'd go to 16, like around 15. He should not leave. I think he's a good player. You finally hit on a draft pick. The Pistons haven't hit on many draft picks at all over the years, and when you hit on one with Luke, and I think he's a really good player. He was going to his own this season. You don't get rid of him. You keep him around. I want to keep Luke around here. But I'm
with you. I think he's a good player.
But I understand people have their value. Players, each player has their own value. So I think that's what it comes down to.
So I hope they don't get rid of Luke. But anyways, all right. So the last topic. So I want to try to hurry up and get this in because this was something I was really interested in. So a couple years ago, I think it was 2 years ago, or last year before this season started, me and Joe had Rod on our podcast, and we talked for 40 minutes about rap, music in general, blah blah. And I believe I want to give you a chance to correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe he told me that you liked Eminem or you thought highly of Eminem. Is this true?
Me and Rod talk about, and I told him this. I think whenever Eminem from Infinite to the right, or listen, I'll preface this. I haven't enjoyed an Eminem album in more than 10 years. What I do tell Rod is that I think Eminem from his Infinite album to the Eminem show, that gap, whatever that year is, that person was maybe the best rapper of all time. Not Eminem in totality. From Infinite to the Eminem show, his artistry, his vocal performance, his lyricism in that period might have been. There's others I think are better, but it's in the conversation for the best rapper, that moment in time.
Right, so that's why I really wanted to ask you about that, because I'll tell you why. I'm a huge Eminem fan. I think that he's the greatest lyricist ever. And I won't sit here and say, I feel like I'm well-versed in basketball. I can make, if I want to say who's the best basketball player of all time, I'm telling you Michael Jordan. And I feel confident in that answer because I know a lot about basketball's history. I'm well-versed in hip-hop's history, but I won't say I'm, as well-versed in it, as I am basketball. So I may be forgetting some people, maybe doing some people wrong. But I see a lot of lists, and I see Eminem up there, and I think he's the best lyricist of all time. I know a lot of people don't like his recent stuff, but I listened to this whole Music to Be Murdered By, and I think this is his best album since his 2002 album. I forget which one. What was that, the Eminem Show? Yeah, so I think this is his best album since then. And I advise you actually check it out, because I think he spits... He lyrically...
No, I've heard it.
I'm telling you, I think lyrically, he's the best rapper ever. I don't think... There's nobody I've heard... Go ahead.
I still think Eminem is a phenomenal rapper. I just can't sit through his albums anymore. I think the beat that he's been using over the last 10 years boring. There's a certain sound I like Eminem on. He doesn't do it anymore. The voice, I miss the high pitched nasally voice. That doesn't happen anymore. He's louder. He's more aggressive. I kind of miss if you listen to Role Model or what's another beat? I don't think almost perfect to me. It raps. That's the question. I'm being serious. I won't argue that. I wouldn't argue that. I still think he's as sharp as anybody out there.
Yeah. So I a lot of people voice your same displeasures with his stuff since his prime, and I will say that I do miss I really like that you brought up his voice. I was just having this conversation with my boy. He's a rapper, and my boy actually is a really good rapper. He's really good freestyle and lyrically. So that's why he thinks Eminem's the greatest lyrics. Him and Nas, he'd be bringing them to him, Nas, and Kendrick. But yeah, so my boy, he's a really good lyrically. He's crazy with it. But me and him were just talking about. I was just telling him about how, his voice, that way Eminem raps now. I still think I really like some of his music on this album. Like I said, I think he's lyrically still amazing, absurd. But I do miss his voice. That's one of the things I do miss. I won't say I'm the biggest fan of the way his voice sounds now, the way he has it going. But I'm really happy that you brought that up because I was just talking about that with my friends.
Yeah, no, that's the one thing that sticks out. Yeah, no, that's the one thing that sticks out to me is aside from like the production that I miss him rapping on, it's definitely the voice. It was just nasally. It was like obviously he was young then. It's hard to describe, but it reminds me like Chance the Rapper has that kind of voice that he used to have, and I don't like Chance the Rapper. Like his voice is like I like his voice, and that's kind of reminds me of Eminem when I hear him rap and strictly voice tone.
I feel the same way about it. But yeah, I think Eminem's the best lyricist of all time. My boy thinks he says Eminem, Nas, Kendrick, all of them. So I wanted to ask you about it because I know Rod said that you were like a big hip hop guy, and I wanted to get your opinion on it real quick.
Yeah, I mean, are we just doing lyrics? Yeah, I mean, are we just doing lyrics? Yeah, if we're just doing like I think Andre 3000 is he doesn't have a solo catalog and he doesn't rap much nowadays, but I think he's the best rapper of all time. Nas, Black Thought from the Roots,
Mos Def. Who else do we got? God, I love Wu-Tang. Ghostface is another one to me in terms of storytelling. Yeah, if you're just going lyricism, I think Black Thought, Eminem, Andre, Nas. I mean, the list can go on, but yeah, Mos Def's up there for me. Yeah, there's a lot of guys, but I think he's for sure in the discussion when you just talk about lyricism. It's I guess when you start bringing in albums, a lot of albums, and there's only 3, well 4 if you count Infinite, Marshall Mathers LP, Slim Shady LP, and Eminem Show. There's only 4 out of 12 that I really enjoy. 13, I don't know how many albums.
Yeah, a lot of people voice the same thing you say. I don't agree with it because I do enjoy this album, but I can see what you guys are talking about. So James, his phone's dying. You can tell a little bit.
Sorry about that.
No,
I'm sorry.
It's great. We made it to 47 minutes, and I really enjoyed it. Thank you for coming on and helping me with this first episode. I'm sorry, everybody, if there's anything, if there's any technical difficulties, let me know down in the comments below. This was the first episode, but I hope you guys enjoyed it. I think it was really fun having James on. He always gives really good insight. He has much more insight than I do, obviously, in the Pistons and just everything that's going on. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. James, thank you again a lot for coming on. I really appreciate it.
No, man, I appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, keep grinding, man. You do good stuff. So I appreciate the you work hard. I appreciate that. So keep working, and I mean that's what gets people places is working hard and putting your head down and doing good stuff, and you do that. So
thanks, James. I really appreciate that. So yep. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in for the first episode of The Ballroom. Thumbs up down below if you liked it. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. And that's all we got for you guys today, and I'll see you guys in my next video.